The second part of the chapter on minerals and energy resources deals with the conventional sources of energy, right? And in this particular video, we will deal specifically with coal. Okay. Now, the question that arises is, what are conventional sources of energy? And there is a reason why I put it in bold letters, because this can be an important question. Now, conventional sources of energy are those which have been used by man over centuries. Over centuries. I'm not talking of years. I'm talking about centuries, right? And are being still tapped and used in abundance, right? These include coal, petroleum, natural gas, Hydel power. What is Hydel power? Power which is generated from water, right? Except for Hydel power, right? These sources of energy, that is coal, petroleum and natural gas, are non-renewable, right? They are non-renewable. They cause pollution, unlike Hydel power, and are costlier than renewable sources of energy, which is why you see there are protests whenever petrol and diesel crosses the 100 rupees mark, right? So, that's important. So what are conventional sources of energy is something you need to do. We will get into more detail as far as, and slightly technical detail as far as coal is concerned, but the way we are trying to explain it out here, मुझे उम्मीद है कि आपको समझ में आ जाएगा. You will be able to understand. So now let's look specifically at coal. Now this is coal, and you would have seen coal being burnt in order to, for cooking purposes, sometimes barbecue and stuff like that, right? So what exactly is coal? So now this is the technical definition of coal. It is a combustible. Combustible, what is combustible means? Anything which can be set on fire. It is a combustible solid stratified rock. Stratified, I'll explain to you. When I explain to you the next 3-4 slides, you will understand what I'm talking about. Stratified rock of organic and mineral matter, right? Composed of carbon 60 to 90%. So 60 to 90% of coal is essentially carbon. Then there is nitrogen, hydrogen, then there is oxygen and nitrogen in these percentages. Okay, so that is essentially the composition of coal. So please remember the keywords: combustible, very important; solid stratified rock of organic and mineral matter. Okay, these words are important. Please remember, in case if you get a very basic definition of what is coal. We will know about how is coal formed in the next 3 to 4 slides. Now, how coal was formed. Now, before dinosaurs, many giant plants died in the earth's swamps so many years ago. Okay, over millions of years, the plants were buried under dirt, sand, and the dead plants are below. Okay, the next slide will explain this better. Dirt, sand. And thereafter, heat and pressure, over centuries, heat and pressure has turned the dead plant into coal. Dirt, then rocks, and coal is below. So the more it goes inside the earth's surface, coal gets formed as a result of organic and vegetable matter and the effect of heat and pressure on it. Now you may wonder, ये तो compost होता है. But compost mein there is microbial action, and compost, when there is vegetable matter, organic matter which is put there, and there is microbial action, right? And it gets converted into compost, which is used as fertilizer, right? In both urban, semi-urban, rural areas. Now there is microbial action there, and it doesn't go down that much. There is not the effect of heat and pressure to the extent that it happens in the case of coal. Now if you look at the next slide, you will understand it better. Now, time is of essence, which is why I said over centuries. Over time, this is what the vegetable matter, and it keeps getting decomposed and going down inside the ground. The first stage is peat, which is the first stage of coal. And later on, as time passes, there is pressure as a result of whatever is there on the earth's surface. There is heat which is generated below the earth, and then the first, this lignite, and eventually coal is formed. So this is how it is formed. So if I have to explain it again in more technical terms, due to the accumulation of dead plant matter, either in delta areas or in swampy areas or in coastal plains or lowlands, the vegetable matter is subjected to geological processes. And what is the geological processes? By the environment, and that is heat, pressure and time, right? And it results in both physical and chemical changes. The vegetative, the organic matter changes into coal by heat and pressure as a result of deep burial, inside the ground, and also the weight, the pressure factor, the pressure of the weight of what all is there on the earth's surface above, and also the result of the earth movements, because the earth plates, the seismological movements also of the earth plates, that also results in the formation of coal, different forms of coal, peat, lignite, and eventually different forms of coal also. The conversion, remember this definition, the conversion of dead vegetation into coal is called coalification. Now ये KOHLI नहीं है, विराट कोलिफिकेशन नहीं है, COALIFICATION, coalification. It's there in the notes. Okay, so one more slide I will show you. Okay, that's coming up next. Now factoids about coal production you need to know. China is the largest importer and consumer of coal. Okay, this is important. आपके textbooks में India has been put at number 3, but I checked according to the 2020 statistics, India is the second highest producer of coal. Okay, so I will go with the actual research that I have done. Oldest coal field in India is Raniganj in the state of Bengal. It was mined in 1774. Okay. Apart from China, the other main producers are Indonesia, USA and Australia. In the top 5, these are the top 5 countries. So Raniganj in Bengal, first mined in 1774. Okay, this is the oldest coal field in India. The largest coal field in India is Jharia in Jharkhand. Now, why is all this important? Now, I don't specifically remember whether these are all part of the maps, but sometimes in the map marking, okay, and this is the risk when you leave out some chapters. You could not be given the name, you could just be mark the oldest coal field in India. Possible. I don't know whether it's there in the syllabus or not. Okay, so you need to know that you are talking about Raniganj and then you have to identify Raniganj on the map. So that's a risk when you leave out certain chapters completely without looking at it at all. Okay, so this is something which I wanted to flag. Now, the different forms of coal. Now, this is something which I wanted to come to. Now, there are, depending on the amount of carbon, the volatile matter and the moisture, there are different forms of coal. One, of course, is anthracite. Then there is the bituminous coal. Then there is lignite and then there is peat. Now, let's actually start with peat. Now, peat is the precursor of coal. Before it becomes actual coal, peat actually is formed first. And it is found in the Nilgiris mountains in the western part of Tamil Nadu, Ooty, Kodaikanal, that part of Tamil Nadu, the Kashmir Valley, more swampy areas, jahan pe bhi dal kind of area is there, and it is used for domestic heating and also as an alternative to firewood. So peat is a very low quality of coal in that sense. Then we come to lignite. Okay, where there is less pressure, lignite is formed. When there is more pressure is when anthracite, which is the highest form of coal, which is formed. Okay, so which is why I want to come in this order. Lignite is the lowest quality of coal. Okay, this is the precursor to coal, before coal. Lignite is the lowest quality of coal. It is brown in color, brown coal, and it is most harmful to health. It's not considered very good when you are using lignite as a means of coal for heating purposes, different kind of purposes. There's a company called Neyveli Lignite Corporation, NLC India, right, which does pretty well on the stock market though, in Tamil Nadu. It is used for generation of electricity in the southern part of Tamil Nadu. So Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Bengal, Kerala, Puducherry, these are the places where lignite is formed. Okay, then we come to the bituminous coal. There is some bituminous, then there is bituminous. Bituminous is found mainly in the Gondwana coal fields of the Gondwana geological age, because we are talking about centuries. So there is a Gondwana period where coal was formed. So there are two different periods in which coal was formed in India. So it's basically talking about the Gondwana geological age, and is used for producing coke as in cooking coal, gas, coal gas, steam coal, and therefore it is known as cooking coal, the bituminous variety of coal. Then the best variety is the anthracite variety, which is the highest variety of coal, and it is found only in Jammu and Kashmir, and hence there are insufficient reserves of anthracite coal in India, right? It is used for domestic purposes because it is smokeless fuel. It doesn't kind of generate the kind of smoke that bituminous or lignite or peat usually do, and it is also used in the iron and steel industry, also used for metallurgy. So this one's uses is something which you would need to know. So this particular slide in that sense is important. What I mentioned to you about the geological age, one is the Gondwana age with geological age, which is 200 million years ago, and then there are the tertiary deposits which are more recent, 55 million years ago. Okay, so coal of different varieties over a period of time, over several decades and centuries. Then what are the advantages of coal? Okay, this is what a typical coal field looks like. One is a source of power. Pehle ke steam engines वगैरह में, if you have seen, of course now it's all electrical locomotives. Earlier people had to put coal in order to run the engine, the steam engine, and there would be a lot of pollution, etc., which will be coming. So it's a source of power for running trains, ships, machines, etc., right? If you've seen this movie called Sholay, much before your time, your parents would have seen, your grandparents would have seen. So there is this opening scene in which, the train is run by the, the koila being put into the, in order to run the engine. Then to manufacture iron and steel, it is used as raw material in thermal power plants. Then it is source of heat and energy. So these are the four main uses of advantages of coal. Okay, it's also used in manufacture of cement, in brick kilns where brick is manufactured, usually on the outskirts of any city, right? A lot of child labor, etc. is used, so not a very great place for anyone to work in, and iron and brass foundry. So these are the advantages of coal. Now, what are the disadvantages of coal? Now, look at this typical coal, this thing. Inside earth, they have put some kind of tracks in order to excavate it. So this is how the excavation of coal is taking place, several meters under the earth. Okay, so you get a feeling. The whole idea of putting these pictures out here in these videos is for you to be able to understand and visually imagine what a typical coal mine looks like, because unfortunately many of your textbooks don't seem to kind of use good quality photographs. In fact, many of them don't use photographs at all. Okay, so the whole idea of doing these photographs is to give you a visual sense of how these different mines and coal fields, etc., look like. So the disadvantage of coal in India is that the calorific value of coal in India is pretty low. What it means that the heat and the energy that it can produce is actually not very great. It's actually pretty less. Then there is a high cost of production and transportation, right? So it's not, in that sense, the return on investment is not very high. When they excavate the coal, when they mine the coal, the cost of production is high. The cost of transporting this coal to another place is also very high. Okay. Then there is large scale pollution that I spoke about. So that's a huge disadvantage as far as coal is concerned. So the advantages and disadvantages, the uses is something which you need to know. So please remember the anthracite, the peat, the bituminous and the lignite varieties things very well. Okay. So next we will move to petroleum and natural gas. Okay. So, and then we will go to Hydel power. So this is something important. So I'll see you in the next video in which we will deal with both petroleum as well as natural gas. Abhi tak ka samajh mein aa gaya? Please go and look at the notes, then read your book so that you are thorough with this part. Please don't leave it out. Thank you very much for watching. Okay, I hope you have already seen the video relating to coal. Now we move to petroleum and natural gas. Now let me tell you, just like in coal, a large part of this is slightly technical in nature. So those are parts which you would need to memorize, write it down, remember the keywords so that it's easy for you to recollect and write it in your examination. So petroleum and natural gas. The word petroleum is derived from petra and oleum. Petra meaning rock and oleum meaning oil. So that's how the word petroleum originates. What is petroleum? It is a complex mixture of hydrocarbon compounds. You would be aware of this from chemistry. So this is a definition that you would need to know. The first two words, the complex mixture of hydrocarbon compounds, the first two sentences, this one and this one. It's also referred to as liquid gold. Now, all this I've put it in question and answer form in the notes so that it's easier for you to read and understand and process. Because not even a tiny part, not even a tiny portion of crude petroleum goes waste or remains unused. Therefore, it's referred to as liquid gold. Why gold? Because of the inherent value of gold. So, it's referred to as liquid gold. Okay. See, you would have heard that phrase these days that data is the new oil. So, oil is also considered very precious. Earlier, oil used to be compared to gold, right? Now, oil itself is a synonym for something which is very valuable and precious. So, now we call data is the new oil, that whoever has access to precious and valuable data means that he's having something as valuable as oil. Okay, I'm just telling you something which you can use in your English essays, etc. Now, liquid petroleum is referred to as crude oil. Okay, this is how oil essentially comes out, right? Petroleum gas is called natural gas. Okay, so these 5 points that I've written out here are things which you should know very clearly. Liquid petroleum is called crude oil, petroleum gas is called natural gas, and the semi-solid and solid forms of petroleum are referred to as asphalt, tar, and bitumen. All three forms which are used in the construction of roads: bitumen, asphalt, tar. Okay. Now, you say, no, the roads are tarred. It has become a verb also. The noun has become a verb. Now, asphalt is a sticky, black, highly viscous form of petroleum, and its primary use, as I said, is in road construction. Now, where exactly is petroleum found? It is found in underground reservoirs in sedimentary rock formations. The technical part that I was referring to, this is something which you would need to know. Where is petroleum found? Okay, and what are the products? Petrol, kerosene, diesel, LPG, tar, lubricants. Okay, these are the paraffin. These are the different products obtained during the refining process of petroleum. Okay, the advantages of petroleum is what is next, and that is an important aspect. The advantages of petroleum is that it is used as a fuel in transport, the most basic need, requirement, and the way petroleum is used. It's also a raw material in the petrochemical industry. Now, those of you who have gone through the videos relating to the mineral-based industries would recall in the petrochemical segment, we had spoken about how it is very necessary for a petrochemical industry to be located very close to the oil refineries, right? And that is because the raw material, it is used as a raw material. The petroleum is used as a raw material in the petrochemical industry for the production of synthetic rubber, synthetic fibers, PVC, carbon, black paints, etc., right? Now, as far as the fuel is concerned, it's also used as a lubricant oil for engines, etc. And finally, it's used for power generation. These three are important advantages. Please remember these, what I have written out here, these are the keywords which have to be part of your answers, and then you can expand depending on what all I'm explaining to you, right? Which is why I keep saying a lot of students seem to go only by the notes. In the videos is where you get the explanation. So please make it a point to look at the videos, listen to them, understand, and then look at the notes, which is a slightly compressed part of what all I explain in the videos. Used for power generation, used in thermal power stations, which are located again close to the oil wells and the refineries. What are the disadvantages of petroleum? This is again, now this, if you see, this is how the different oil refinery stations on sea look like, right? So this is to give you a visual idea, because I realize most of your books don't seem to have photographs, or even if they have such poor quality photographs that they don't get you a visual sense of how it is. And you know, this is how a typical deck on the sea looks where the oil refinery process takes place. What are the disadvantages of petroleum? Now, petroleum, as you know, is a natural fossil, and therefore it is a non-renewable form of fuel. Okay, we are just finishing it. You understand? We are finishing it unless, of course, you discover new oil wells, etc., new places where petroleum has been struck, fuel has been struck. But otherwise, it's a non-renewable natural fossil fuel. It adds to pollution and global warming, because extraction of petroleum and burning it releases greenhouse gases, and that leads to environmental pollution and global warming. The high cost which is involved because the supply is limited and the demand is much more. It's highly inflammable, understandable, can create fire, and the risk of oil spills and the threat to marine life, because many times we have seen that if there is an oil leakage somewhere out here, then the entire area that you see out here will get affected by the oil spill, and the oil spill will immediately kill the fish in the sea, whales, etc. So it will be a major threat to marine life. The whole idea of putting these big pictures here is to give you a visual idea of how typically petroleum refinery takes place. Refineries work essentially takes place. Okay. One of my uncles used to work in the Cochin refineries in Kochi in Kerala. So in that sense, I have, from a very young age, I've seen the kind of work they would do out there. Now we come to the distribution part of petroleum. Now the entire oil production in India comes from the Assam Arakan belt, okay, which covers the entire northeastern part of the country. That's a major oil petroleum reserve. Okay, it also comes from the Gujarat area, Gujarat Cambay area, and Mumbai High. This is Mumbai High. Now don't think this is on fire, because petroleum is there, so there will also be always a fire. I'll tell you a story about that a little later. Now Mumbai High is off the Mumbai coast. Now some of the books refer to the distance between Mumbai city and Mumbai High as about 176 kilometers. I think one of the textbooks, Morning Star, refers to it as 176 kilometers. According to the ONGC website, ONGC as in Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, ONGC, the company which takes care of all the oil production, etc. Their website, which I checked, talks about the distance as 160 kilometers. Okay, so I'm just putting it on record that I would much rather go by the ONGC website than any textbook. Now, oil was struck here at Mumbai High in 1974. That time it used to be called Bombay High. Okay, 1974, and it is called Sagar Samrat. This place is called Sagar Samrat, which is actually, Samrat as in emperor, the emperor of the sea. So that's where the oil was struck. Now, why is it called Mumbai High? Now, that's interesting because of the height of the syncline of the rock structure. Now, what exactly is syncline? Let me just draw it and tell you. I hope I can do that. Yeah. Okay, now syncline rock structure is something like this. So there is a bend here which kind of comes close. These are the rock structures like this. Okay, so there would be a coming together, and that is referred to as syncline. It's a geological term. Okay, I hope you know what is geology. Geology, which deals with structures under the earth's surface, etc. Okay, so it is syncline is a term in geology in which the beds dip towards each other. They're dipping towards each other, and it is a specially designed platform for drilling, and it drills oil from a depth of 1,400 meters. Okay, then there is the Digboy oil field in Assam, which is another one, which is the oldest oil bearing area in India, where refinery was commissioned way back in 1901, 46 years before independence. And then there is the Cambay area in Gujarat. You have Koyali, Ankleshwar, Kalol, Kosaba, which are the major important oil fields in the western region, the Gujarat state. There are essentially over 20 refineries in India. Okay, so that's as far as the petroleum part of this chapter is concerned. We will now move to natural gas. Okay, now an oil field, when an oil field is there, it yields both mineral oil as well as natural gas. Okay, so natural gas is mainly composed of methane. Okay, I have not written it here. Methane plus propane plus ethane. Mainly methane, 95%, also propane and ethane. You would be familiar with these terms from chemistry. It's essentially a fossil fuel, right, as we know, and it is formed by decomposing remains of dead animals and plants buried under the earth. This definition is something which I again refer to, technical part, you need to remember. This is the way, this is the definition of natural. So what is natural gas? If you get a basic question like that, you need to write exactly what I told you, including these parts which are inclusive of the keywords. Then this is another one of the oil fields, right? Just to give you an idea. You have compressed natural gas. All vehicles, for instance, including public transport in Delhi, run on CNG, which is compressed natural gas, CNG. Please know these expanded forms. Then there is a liquefied petroleum gas, which is your cooking gas, LPG. We say LPG cylinder, liquefied petroleum gas. Then there is a piped natural gas, PNG, when the gas comes to your cooking gas straight away without having to go through a cylinder. Okay, 3/4 of India's natural gas comes from Mumbai High. So Mumbai High is essentially the main place where all the gas is being produced. So CNG, as I said, used to run vehicles as an alternative to diesel and petrol. LPG is a byproduct after refining of crude oil, and the main component is butane. One of the questions that could possibly come is that why do LPG cylinder in our domestic gas cylinders give a foul smell? Now that's because of a foul smelling gas called ethyl mercaptan, which is added to LPG, and it's added for a purpose. एक वजह से उसको add किया जाता है ताकि if gas is leaked, people will know and they can do something to contain it, because essentially LPG is an odorless gas. So deliberately you add this element in order to ensure that the foul smell comes and people can be alerted, because you are using it essentially for domestic usage, right? And the PNG is supplied continuously through a pipe, right? It happens mostly in Mumbai kind of areas where you get piped gas. 3/4 comes from Mumbai High, 1/4 comes from Assam, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Tripura kind of places. Now, let's look at the advantages of natural gas. It is more eco-friendly, right? When compared especially to coal and petroleum, it's made up of methane, and therefore it results in less carbon emissions. It can be transported, right? Different forms. It's easier to preserve. It can be transported through pipelines, through cylinders, through tankers, etc., both on land as well as on sea. Then it can be piped into households, PNG, that I refer to, used for cooking, heating, whatever purposes. It's more clean and cheaper form of fuel, though these days cooking gas has gone over 1,000 rupees. So not exactly very cheap, but essentially that's the, compared definitely to other forms, it's cheaper and it's considered more safe unless and until, so long as you use it carefully. And it can dissipate, even if there is a gas leak, it can dissipate, and it's also used for fertilizers, paints, plastics, etc. ONGC, as I said, is the main place where this is used. I'm familiar with it again because my brother-in-law works at ONGC. He used to work at Mumbai High. So they used to go there 14 days. They would be there at Mumbai High taking care of the entire drilling operations. And I've covered ONGC also in sense of there have been disasters. For instance, there was this great disaster in Rajamundry in the East Godavari district of Andhra Pradesh. And I still remember driving through the night. There was a major fire disaster at ONGC plant in Rajamundry. And I still remember reaching that place, driving through the night at around 4:35 in the morning. And from a distance, you could see the fire burning. The entire thing had caught fire, right? Explosion. So the entire thing had caught fire and you could see it from a distance. I still remember it's such an eerie feeling to seeing so much of fire, such a mammoth fire at the ONGC plant. And it took almost, if I remember right, almost a week for it to get completely under control, that was quite a longish period of time that one spent there in Rajamundry. What are the disadvantages of natural gas? Can be highly toxic in the sense that when inhaled during a gas leak, of course it can dissipate fast, but if there is a major gas leak and if you inhale it, it can be highly toxic. And that's why you see, especially when it is used in industrial plants, etc., it can cause those kind of disasters, right? Because methane is toxic. It's a non-renewable form of fuel, so it will get exhausted one day. It's expensive infrastructure. LPG may be cheaper, but to create that entire thing of Mumbai High, etc., it's an extremely expensive kind of proposition. So in terms of infrastructure, it is quite costly and it gives less mileage as a fuel compared to petrol and diesel, the CNG, which is used as a fuel in vehicles. So that's as far as the disadvantages of natural gas is concerned. I hope petroleum and natural gas is now clear. We've already done coal. So these different parts are clear of different kinds of fossil fuels. is clear, please go through the notes so that the entire portion, you can do a second revision looking at the notes. Thank you very much for watching. Hello, I hope you are doing well. We are now going to look at the Hydel power or Hydel energy part of the energy resources chapter. So, Hydel power as part of the SWS Geography Guru course. Now, this is what an ideal Hydel power energy producing center looks like. This is a dam, right? So, you see there is water which is stored, okay? So, the water does not flow directly into the sea downstream, but this dam is constructed as a result of which you can regulate the flow of water, and the water, when it comes out of the gates which are opened at particular timings, right? So, the control of the release of the water is with the engineers who are manning the dam side. So, when the water falls from here, with the energy that is produced when it falls on the turbine, that's how power is generated, Hydel power. Okay. So what is Hydel power? Electricity generated from water is called Hydel power. Now it is produced from the energy that is released when water falls from a high level with great force. I put it down in the notes. River water is stored, as I just said here, the other side of this dam, right? And you see the water which kind of flows down, right, at a very high force, and with this kind of a force, the Hydel power is generated. This is the Sri Salem Dam in Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so river water is stored by constructing a dam so that it does not flow downstream directly into the sea. Then the water is made to fall from a height on a turbine whose blades then move as a result, right, from the force of the falling water, and that rotates the generator, resulting in the production of electricity. Okay, so that's how Hydel power is generated, and this is an important source of power for our country, for any country for that matter, definitely India. Now, look at this. These are magnificent sites. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to go to a dam and see. If you are a student from Odisha, you should definitely visit the Hirakud Dam, about which we will study later on in this chapter, in this video. Bhakra Nangal Dam, there are whole lots of them, right? There are advantages and disadvantages, right? But they are majestic structures, the way they are constructed, right? So what are the advantages of Hydel power? First of all, it is clean energy. It's a non-polluting source of energy. Non-polluting, clean being the keyword. So please use that in your answer if you get a question on what are the advantages of Hydel power, right? So clean, non-polluting source of energy. It does not create any toxic byproducts, which is the case with many other energy sources, or it does not create any harmful waste, right? So this is important. The second one, it does not release any greenhouse gases. It does not add to global warming, right? And with the kind of talk we have about climate change, global warming, etc. So in that sense, this becomes extremely important. It's a renewable source of energy. It will not get over, right? Water we will hopefully continue to have. So it's a renewable source of energy. It saves water. It restores water besides producing electricity, and it saves on fossil fuels, and it's cheaper than the electricity produced from either fossil fuels or nuclear power, right? So in that sense, these are the 5 big advantages of Hydel power. In the notes, whatever words I've highlighted, they are the keywords. So when you are writing the answers, ensure that you use those keywords for sure, okay? Because generally what happens is that in subjective question papers, the people who are checking your paper answer script will be given the keywords. So they will be essentially looking for the keywords in your answer. So whatever words I've highlighted in bold letters, please ensure that you have those words in the answers that you write. Now, what are the disadvantages of Hydel power? First of all, the high cost of building dams, running into crores of rupees, right? So that is something which a poor country has to factor in. Then you have that it alters the natural water table. This is the a general criticism made by environmentalists, and it's a genuine concern, right? That it alters the natural water table because you're lifting water, storing water somewhere, not allowing it to go downstream. So the water table of the places downstream can go down. So you're kind of altering it. You're making changes in the water table, right? Then the geological damage, right? Because the way the dams are constructed, because you are kind of introducing a new element into those kind of green forest areas, right? And I will talk about it in a bit. Giving specific examples of two places, one in the north, one in south of India, right? So they can also trigger earthquakes, and the protests against the Tehri Dam in Uttarakhand, and students from Uttarakhand would know this, they were quite strong. There were very strong protests against the Tehri Dam in Uttarakhand. So they can cause geological damage. So there is serious environmental concern about what this tons of concrete can do in a green area, right? And it also displaces many people when it is built, because the water will flow, right? It also involves sometimes changing the course of the water, right? So many villages, people have to be displaced, right? I remember when the Nagarjuna Sagar Dam was built in Andhra Pradesh, United Andhra Pradesh, there are a whole lot of people in the Nalgonda district, today's Telangana, who were displaced. And even till today, many of them have not got proper compensation from the government. So those kind of things, it's called the R&R package, relief and rehabilitation package, which is announced by the government when they undertake these kind of big infrastructure projects. So dam is one of those kind of projects. Okay. In fact, let me just tell you. Now, environmental concerns that I spoke about. This is the Tehri Dam. You see the complete green cover in the midst of mountains where the Tehri Dam is constructed. In fact, Sundarlal Bahuguna of the Chipko movement, now he's no more, passed away recently. When I was in the Economic Times, I remember I was writing a profile on Sundarlal Bahuguna, a full half-page profile for the Sunday Economic Times. I was part of the Sunday ET team, and I wanted to meet him. And he said, "Nahi, मैं आपसे आके मिलता हूँ." And I was 23 years old at that time. So he came, spent about 3 hours talking about his life. Fantastic gentleman, fantastic, one of the best, most learned Gandhians I have met, and he was instrumental in the protests against the Tehri Dam largely, right? So this is the Tehri Dam. This is the Polavaram project in Andhra Pradesh. There you see Jagan Mohan Reddy, the Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister. Now this has also run into protests from environmentalists, from other states like Chhattisgarh and Odisha, whose flow of water, etc., also will get affected as a result of the Polavaram project, okay, which is upwards of the Godavari district. So whenever these kind of big ticket infrastructure projects like dams are constructed, it affects not just that state but neighboring states, the entire environment and ecology and geology of that entire area. Okay. This is the Bhakra Nangal Dam, and this is an interesting photograph from 1954. There you see then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, right, when the Bhakra Nangal Dam was under construction at the inauguration, when this whole infrastructure project was being created. In fact, it's quite interesting that Pandit Nehru called dams the temples of modern India at that point in time. So this picture is from the 8th of July, 1954. Now, what is the Bhakra Nangal project like? Okay, it's a joint venture project of Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan. 3 states are involved in it. It is the second highest dam in Asia. Okay, it's the second highest dam in terms of height in Asia, and there are 2 dams essentially, one at Bhakra and one in Nangal. Okay, and therefore together it's called the Bhakra Nangal Dam project, and it also consists of the Nangal Hydel plant, the powerhouses which generate electricity, and the Bhakra canal system. All this I have put in notes. So all this is part of the entire Bhakra Nangal project. Okay, now where is the Bhakra Dam constructed? Okay, the Bhakra Nangal project, both of them are constructed over the Satluj River. Okay, both of them are constructed over the Satluj River. That is interesting, and between Punjab and Himachal Pradesh. Okay, there is a 90-kilometer long reservoir of the Bhakra Dam, which is called the Gobind Sagar, and the storage capacity is 9.3 billion cubic meters. You may not need all these details, but I put it in the notes in any case. Okay, Nangal Dam is also constructed on the Satluj River, and it supplies water to the Bhakra irrigation canal. So in that sense, there is an interconnection between them. There are 4 powerhouses which have been installed, and it provides irrigation to farms in Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan, the 3 states for which this is a joint project. So there is installed power capacity, it provides irrigation, and it prevents flooding. This is an important part, because sometimes when there is very heavy monsoon, so if the water is not stored, it can kind of flood areas which are downstream, right? So if the water is stored, it kind of helps in regulating the flow of water. So generally for a dam project, which are the main uses? Irrigation, preventing of flooding, and installed power capacity. So these 3 are very important uses of any important multi-purpose river dam project. Okay, I have written one question: how does the Bhakra Nangal project benefit the 3 states, that is Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan? It provides water for irrigation, it generates Hydel power, it prevents flooding from both the Satluj and the Beas rivers, right? And it does so by how? By storing the excess water which is there during the monsoon, and then regulates the water, because there will be months during the summer where there will be drought. So at that time you can regulate the flow of water so that there is water which is stored, it does not go waste, right? And power is also supplied from the Bhakra Nangal Dam project to, this is the Bhakra Nangal Dam project, to Delhi, to Himachal Pradesh and also the Union Territory of Chandigarh, which is of course the joint capital of Haryana and Punjab. Okay, finally we come to the Hirakud Dam. Okay, this is the Hirakud Dam. Students from Odisha would be familiar with this. This is the longest dam in the world, right? The Kaleshwaram project, which has been constructed more recently in Telangana, is, I believe, the largest lift irrigation dam. Okay, so there will be different kinds of dams also. Okay, lift irrigation is when you lift water from a height and bring it up. Okay, but in terms of the length, this is the longest dam in the world, 15 kilometers in length, right? It is built across the Mahanadi river in Odisha, the main river of Odisha. It produces Hydel power and it also helps in irrigation, which is why it is called a multi-purpose river valley project. You see the kind of the span of the entire project. Okay, this is from the Odisha tourism website that I picked up this photograph. So it regulates the flow of the Mahanadi river. It irrigates about 75,000 square kilometers of farmland, and it provides irrigation for both the Kharif and the Rabi crops in 4 districts of Odisha, which is essentially Sambalpur, Subarnpur, Bolangir and Bargarh. 2 districts starting with S and 2 districts starting with B. So you could remember it accordingly. They are in the Mahanadi Delta. So that is as far as the Hydel power portion of this energy resources chapter is concerned. I hope this is clear. A question will come from this definitely. There will be a lot to remember as far as this chapter is concerned, as I have been saying. But if you are able to do so, this is all high scoring. These are all high scoring chapters because they are basically facts. There is no interpretation. You just need to understand and store it all in your mind, and you will be able to deal with it quite easily. Now these are all simple facts, and I hope when you see the pictures, it gives you an idea about how especially the photograph that I showed you right at the beginning is concerned. Water stored here and regulated and released slowly, and especially this photograph in particular, which shows you the power of the water. Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you now in part 4. Thank you. Bye bye.